Yo, what up? It is the 16th of April, 2024. It is currently 10:13 p.m. on a Tuesday. And let's start off with a little today I learned, because I actually did learn this today. Apparently, grass, like the actual grass pattern that you have on the ground, is just random depending on your town. Like, it just because I found out today, I realized in Rolfton, my second town, that my grass was was triangles, whereas in Mateiio, I had specifically remembered the fact that it was circles. I used to think, and this is what I honestly believed, that there's a flower missing behind there. I'm just going to take this real quick. That the grass was different depending on the game, and that it was only triangular in certain Animal Crossing games, and this was not one of them. Wild World wasn't one of them. But no, it's just a random thing that's decided when your village is made. I don't know if there's a specific thing that you can do to determine it, and I've never seen anyone talk about that before, but I just thought that was interesting. And that was a thing up until New Horizons, where now it's all just triangles no matter what. Hey, Hugh. Have you heard the stories of the fearsome red flower? What stories? It's a kind of dirty flower that only grows in pigsties. It stinks to high heaven, but if you fry it up, it actually tastes kind of like carrot cake. That's the, I forget what that flower's called. Also, this tree, I can now cut this tree down. It's the Raffled Selfie, it's something R-A-F-F, like it's got R's, A's, F's, S's, all that stuff, but I don't remember the exact, way it's said or spelled. But yeah, so I don't know if that's a thing in many Animal Crossings. I just know it's in this one where if you have so many weeds, like a ridiculous amount of weeds, there will be this flower, and I think it grows in whatever the most, weed riddled acre of the town is. And it's basically, you can't dig it up until every other weed, I think it's every other weed in that acre has been removed. Hey, Marina. I like that she calls me Buddy now. Buddy, you have to help me because I got a real dilemma for you. So I'm having a tough time. Okay, you talked about this yesterday. Just 10 minutes. And then you just fling it, at a wall, and if it sticks, it's done. So that's al dente. I guess I've always liked my pasta a little hard on the inside. A little firmness gives your teeth something to sink into. Show me appreciation for his help. I've got a gift. If you want to have hardness when eating spaghetti, just have it with something else. I don't like that. I don't like the idea of biting into like spaghetti and it having like a hardness to it. Anyway, what was I talking? Oh yeah, it's called the corpse flower, I believe, because it's said to smell like a corpse, which historically is not a very pleasant smell, if you could believe that. But so yeah, you can only get rid of it once you've gotten rid of every other weed in that acre that it's growing in. And I've never seen footage of it, like, well, I've seen it before, like, people obviously have experimented around with it, but I've never seen someone's town actually get to the point of it, like, showing up naturally. I don't know how long you would have to, like, not tend to your town before it would show up. I really don't know. Obviously, we're not going to be seeing it, because I'm never going to let my town get to that kind of state. And even if it did, I really don't even know if there's enough spaces available for there to be that many weeds, but I'm not sure. Oh, it's Peewee. Hey, Peewee. And I've just gotten a bit of a sniff now. See that constellation up there? I guess it's called Clawhand. Clawhand. I say it, I gotta laugh. Another thing about the corpse flower is that it is the basis of the Pokemon Vileplume, which, I mean, I feel like most people know by this point. At least if you're in the sphere of both this game and therefore, probably Nintendo stuff as a whole. Yes, Vileplume is based off that flower, which isn't, that's kind of a not an unsettling thing, I guess, but it makes me feel uncomfortable just with the fact that Vileplume's so cute. The idea that it actually just smells like a corpse, which means I probably wouldn't actually want to have one in real life. By and large, the feeling of a place is set by the furniture inside. I'm all about collecting pink furniture right now. I could just totally relax in a place filled with pink furniture. Well, what does she not have that's already pink? I guess a couch. Her couch is white. I could try and get her something pink. I don't want our house to get ruined, though, by me giving her, you know, random furniture. Her house looks nice. I ordered these. I definitely ordered those. I guess in other Pokemon-related territory discussion, I just today got a copy, like as in it arrived today, a copy of Pokemon Black version, which if you're, you know, if you've ever tried to get a copy of basically any Pokemon game before the 3DS games, you'll know that it can be very pricey. But I managed to get it for $100, which is like, it's obviously more, like, so Australia full price game cost is like $80. Generally, it's $80. So if I went and I wanted to get, say, like, I don't know, the Princess Peach game, I'm pretty sure that's full price. That just came out, that's $80. So, a game that is obviously older, you know, like, that's the thing, for a long time, the, you know, retro gaming scene, in terms of prices, kind of reflected the fact that the games were old, in that they cost less than the games that come out now, and within the past couple of years, that's sort of reversed on itself, where now a lot of the most notable and best games are now more expensive than games that come out now, and depending on your perspective, are probably, you know, not going to be as good as modern games, or at least not going to have as much to offer. Let's read this bottle mail real quick. Work notes, December 24th, started work 7:45 a.m, got home 12 a.m, overtime 7 hours 30 minutes. Oh my god, Jesus Christ. on Christmas Eve? That's messed up. But yeah, so it's in a, yeah, the retro gaming scene's in a bit of a sad state right now, but personally, it's something that I am, like, very interested in, so I don't really mind spending, you know, a little bit over full price for the games, especially when I know that I'm going to get a great amount of enjoyment out of them, or at least I find the purchase to be worth it. So it's all a matter of perspective, and I can see why, you know, I can definitely see why people would not want to get it. But, personally, if you ask me, to get a copy of Pokemon Black for $100 when, you know that shovel from Rolfton? That kid is a total stylish slob, know what I mean? It's been 22 days since I last saw that character. Hope things are going well. Huh. Anyway, so, I'd say for Pokemon Black, like, you know, Generation 5 standards, which, now that they're at their, like, peak popularity, oh, Sahara's here today, now that they're at their peak popularity, are going for insane amounts. $100, which is, like, I guess the US equivalent probably of, say, I want to say, like, 80 USD, like, I don't know, if you're a Pokemon fan, would you get Pokemon Black or White for $80? If you're American, I guess if you're not, then whatever that would convert to. Personally, I think it's a pretty good deal. At least in context. Also, I'm making Victoria leave. In context of, you know, how it's been. Obviously, like I said, ideally it would be less than a modern game, but especially with Pokemon, right now, if I wanted to get Pokemon, you know, the latest Pokemon games, which are worse than pretty much everything else of the series, they would cost, you know, they'd cost $80 for me. But Pokemon Black costs $20 more than that, and they're better games, so... I mean, it's just sort of, like I said, a matter of perspective thing. If you really don't, like, if you don't think you'll care that much, like, that's the thing, is like, you used to be able to go into these stores and get like 50 NES games for like $30, like, and they were all, you know, decent games as well. They weren't just all crap. But the viability of that has gone down now, so now it's less of a hobbyist thing. It's still a hobbyist thing, but now you have to be more into it to be able to commit that much to it. And so it's kind of a matter of how much, you know, you're willing to commit to it. Personally, there's not much else, at least in terms of luxury items, that I would really care to spend money on, so, yeah. Plus, I mean, think of it this way, if, you know, Pokemon, if Gen 5 now is costing that much, when an inevitable remake comes out and they're inevitably worse than the originals, it's only going to increase the demand for the originals, because people are going to want to see what the fuss was about and also avoid the crappy remakes, which I dare say was probably what happened to Generation 4 with Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum when Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl came out, although I can't confirm or deny. But, you know, so yeah, I feel like, you know, the prices are going to go up. The only other thing I could, you know, predict is that maybe there'll be, like, a full-on crash in the market for whatever reason. I don't see that really happening, though. There's not anything that implies it. If anything, I think the retro gaming market is only going to have more investment into it, with newer games, with, you know, the newer gaming scene having more and more disappointments associated with it. By the way, believe it or not, but the number 4 shirt is actually one that I need to get. I don't know how it's taken so long for me to get this shirt, but yes, I did need to get that. But yeah, like, that's the thing, is that as long as, you know, modern gaming is the way that it is, where games are coming out in these sorry states, and, you know, people are constantly talking about the classics, those games are only going to get more expensive as more people are going to want to experience them. I guess there's also the idea of, you know, emulation, which I'm not... The thing about emulation, especially for retro games, is that I'm not morally against it. Like, to me, it's perfectly logical. If a developer or company is no longer selling the game that they published, then the, you know, purchasing of it is superfluous, because the money... even if you buy the game fully legitimately, that money isn't going to the people that made it, so it doesn't matter. The reason I personally would rather have the actual copies of the game is just a preference thing, because not only do I think, I don't know, I just find it kind of lame to emulate games when people, like, show off, like, upscaling it to, like, 4K and, like, removing all of, like, the graphical artifacts and stuff, and, like, and I get why people do it. I just think it's, like, whatever. I'd rather play games in their intended, like, you know, their intended form, which I understand, you know, not everyone's going to agree with that. This is how I don't agree with, you know, emulation, or at least I don't agree with, I don't see the appeal in it, other than the access. To me, I would emulate if I really did not see any other option, but it's like a last resort kind of thing. I'm not going to go straight to it, is the point I'm trying to make. But, yeah, I'm not against it, like, morally, although I do think there is a bit of a, did I give that? Oh, yeah, I did. There's a bit of a thing around emulation that kind of annoys me. I'm gonna sell some stuff. Where, like, people try and act, like, have some sense of superiority with it and think, and, like, in my opinion, especially with, you know, modern games, emulation at its best isn't, like, a service, you know? You're not, like, doing a service to anyone by you choosing to emulate random games, and yet some people try to have some sort of sense of superiority for it. I see people, you'll see videos of people, like, getting physical games or talking about physical games, and people will just be like, just emulate it with, you know, without understanding the like appeal the different preferences. And I just think a lot of the community surrounding that is a little bit ignorant on that sort of stuff. But for modern games, I don't necessarily agree with emulation. I don't think, unless you live in a country where games truly are so expensive that you could work for like a year and not be able to afford one, then I don't really see why you need to emulate games. Like, if you live in any, good developed country, one that, you probably have open access to the internet and therefore probably talk about it in online forums, I don't really see why you need to emulate. And so to me, at that point, it feels, it's just kind of people not wanting to pay for stuff, which I don't care if people don't want to pay for stuff, whatever, it's not my product. To me, it's just the way people try and justify it, instead of people trying to be like, yeah, I do this thing, and I know that it's, me just not wanting to pay for something. People try to have, like, these sorts of, like, I don't know, trying to push the goalpost. Not push the goalpost, that's the wrong terminology. They're trying to, like, evade onus to their like actions by trying to make it into some sort of like statement, on the state of games or whatever. But like, if you emulate a game, then you are, unless you don't say a word about that game, you are promoting it in some way. And even then, if you choose to play a game that you think is bad but you just don't pay for it, then you're still letting that game take up your time. The biggest statement you can make about a game that you don't like is not paying any attention to it. And yet people will see a game that isn't good come out and they'll be like, I guess I'll pirate this, which to me just doesn't make sense. To me, it just makes more sense just to not put even an iota of thought towards it, and then it'll go away. But trying to bring attention towards it to me is just kind of stupid. But I understand that there's a lot of nuance to it, because I can't speak for every single person in this situation. But yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of people in the space who are trying to push narratives and stuff like that I just think are kind of untrue, and trying to just take away from the hard truth that the vast majority of people that pirate or emulate games really are just doing it because they don't want to pay for things, and that's just the truth. That's just how whatever. But all that being said, when it comes to retro games, like I said, I don't think it matters at all, because none of the money's going to the people who actually made the thing. But I don't think, yeah, that's just personally how I feel about it, and I get why people have their own arguments for that kind of stuff. But for Pokemon, I guess, in saying all of that, it's a little bit different, because, Pokemon has famously had interactivity between all of their games. Obviously, the exceptions being that from Generation 2 to Generation 3, you can transfer Pokemon. But from Generation 3 onwards, every single Pokemon, other than, the Spiky Pichu and, is it Gen 4, all of those Pokemon can be transferred up to, newest onto the Switch, onto the Nintendo Switch. So you can take a Pokemon from the Game Boy Advance and bring it all the way up to the Nintendo Switch, which is, very, it's pretty unique, really. I don't think there's many other series that can say they've got that kind of history, or at least compatibility with history. But then the problem with that obviously becomes, if you want to, experience that kind of thing, you need the actual copies of the game, because unless you use, there are things like PK Hex, which are hacking things that could theoretically make a perfectly identical clone of a Pokemon from an emulated game and bring it into a modern Pokemon game in a sense that is basically identical to transferring a Pokemon up to the newest games, but without having to own, or fully, properly own the original games. But for me, I don't really want to do that. So it's kind of an interesting case. Care for a cup of Java to pick you up? It's 200 bells. Let me get into character here. What plan would you like? Usual. Cool. Got the specialized blend today, but it turned out a little differently. Whatever you say. Oh, pigeon milk. Care for a little pigeon milk to put in it? Yes, please. I think you're going to be very pleased. And it goes. There we go. The perfect temperature to bring out the flavor. 976 degrees. One fresh brewed cup. Drink up. Thanks. Sweet amount. This can be none other than the world-renowned pigeon blend. Thanks. I need to drink some water myself. I sure do talk a lot, don't I? But yeah, so there's a certain appeal with Pokemon specifically on having the original games. So now, because I own my 3DS has the Poke Transporter on it and Pokemon Bank, which you could only have done before the 3DS eShop closed down, which was very recent actually. I can now take a Pokemon from as far back as Pokemon Black and bring that all the way up to as recent as Pokemon Violet, which is the Generation 9 game that I am. Which is cool. I think that's cool. And also, I want to do a full living dex. Excuse me again. One more time. I want to do a full living dex in Pokemon Home, and my preference for the Pokemon themselves is that they're acquired from the original regions, just for a sense of, like, I guess, I don't know, consistency. So, I mean, even still, there aren't great consistent ways to get certain Pokemon. Now, I think there's a couple. I don't actually know. As far as I know, I think there are actually a few. I'm going to save and quit. I am going to play as multiple characters today, so this isn't the end. Yeah, I think there actually are some Pokemon that, as of now, can't be obtained through any Nintendo Switch Pokemon game, which is a bit of a concern because that means that it's reliant on transferring them up from Pokemon Bank on the 3DS, which kind of has a shelf life now, a limited shelf life, because inevitably those servers are going to go down, which, you know, will be a sad day. I feel like there should be some kind of way to have the 3DS and Switch connect without having to take advantage of servers. I mean, I don't know, personally. I don't know anything about that sort of stuff. I just think that, you know, it should be possible in some way. I don't know what they would do. Even if it was like, I don't know what you would do. I mean, surely, like, maybe I'm dumb, but, like, what if it was just a thing that plugs into the 3DS and then also on the other end plugs into the Switch? Could that not send data this in a similar way? I don't know. I really do not have any idea. But anyway, yeah, that does mean that you do have to actually play some of the old Pokemon games to get newer Pokemon. And Pokemon Black and White, in particular, are kind of interesting because they're in a weird spot where they're sort of recent, but they're also pretty old. You know, so by now the first 4 generations are old enough that they've been remade, and in some modern capacity, you can play all of them and get all of those Pokemon pretty easily. And then now for the more recent ones, pretty much all the ones that have been released on the Nintendo Switch, obviously those Pokemon are so recent that they are that, you know, inherently easy to get because, you know, they're right there in the newest games. But then there's this middle ground that exists with the ones that are too recent to be remade, but too old to be that accessible. And I guess now that would really include generations 5 through 7, although 6 and 7 aren't that bad. But 5 is kind of the sticking point in that, where it's the oldest not old Pokemon game. It's not old enough to have a remake in any capacity, but it's also not recent enough for it to be particularly accessible. And it's also got a very big Pokedex, which means that, you know, it's kind of hard to bring all of that up. So I think there are Pokemon that from the Unova region that you actually can't get in any modern Pokemon game, but I don't know. I actually don't remember which ones those would be. Also, to get into some more exploit stuff, there's this little trick on the DS, which is actually kind of relevant to this game, Wild World. I think it's called the DNS exploit. Basically, old, DS games had the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection service, which used to let you connect to Wi-Fi for certain things. That service shut down a long time ago, and I think it's because it's the way they would have a connection to servers, which is, and also it's old enough that, I'm pretty sure the Wi-Fis that you could connect to had to be completely unsecure with no password. So basically the DNS exploit allows you to connect to I think it's a fan-made thing. I don't know the specifics of it, but basically it lets you do things with Wi-Fi on the DS and Wii, which is pretty cool. There's a pretty similar thing that's coming around now for 3DS and Wii U called Pretendo, that lets you do, like something pretty similar, which is sort of open to non-hacked systems, but is mainly for hacked systems. But this that I'm talking about, the DNS exploit, is something that is fully available on non-hacked systems, as far as I know. So with all that said, because the DS Pokemon games distributed mystery gifts, which if you don't know are like special events, I guess event Pokemon, which were originally available for only a limited time, those Pokemon are actually now available indefinitely, assuming you use said exploit, because you can connect to those fan servers and get any of the events throughout the history of those DS Pokemon games, which is pretty cool. But that means that the mythical Pokemon, which are usually reserved for like special event distributions, have ways of obtaining them through, I guess not really legitimate means, but I mean, let's be real, mythical Pokemon are just kind of stupid in general. I think it's dumb. Now, yeah, mythical Pokemon have always been kind of dumb to me. I've kind of hated the way they've implemented the concept, because on one hand I get it. They're meant to be these Pokemon who are elusive and so rare that they're, there's not really any good way to get them. But to me, there's better ways of, I don't need either of these. To me, there's better ways of, giving people access to something rare and elusive than just having them connect to the internet and then just receive something. That's kind of lame to me. I think for mythical Pokemon, there should always be a way to get them, and it should be within the generation they were introduced in. And I don't know what exactly they would do, I just think that it's probably better than... Like, a good example is Pokemon Legends Arceus, which implemented it in a cool way. At least for Arceus itself, I guess. Where you were able to catch it after you collected every other Pokemon in the game, which not only gives you an incentive to collect every Pokemon, but it's a reasonable reward for a difficult task that you actually, feel like working towards. Compare that with most other mythicals that you just sort of have to wait for event distributions. I don't know. I don't really like mythical Pokemon, or at least I can like the Pokemon. Some of them I don't care for, but the ways in which they are, distributed, I think, are kind of stupid. But this whole DNS exploit thing allows you to get all of the Generation 5 mythicals, which is actually quite a few. Which means, I think for me, the only problematic mythicals would be most of the modern ones, because, yeah. But yeah, I don't like them. I'm not a fan. But anyway, let's get these deliveries done. But yeah, my ideal... ideally, I'd want to have both versions of every Pokemon game, but that's obviously a lot. But, like, I think I have Pokemon Red and Blue on the 3DS Virtual Console. I have Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Crystal. I don't have Pokemon Silver on the Virtual Console 3DS. And then I have, I guess, my Hoenn game. I don't have a GBA Pokemon game, but I do have Alpha Sapphire for a Hoenn game. And then Generation 4, I don't have any of them. I only have Legends Arceus, which is how I got the Sinnoh Pokedex of Pokemon. And then Generation 5, I only just got Pokemon Black, obviously. Generation 6, I don't have any game. I've never played a Generation 6 game. Generation 7, I have both Sun and Ultra Moon, which covers, obviously... It covers both versions, but also across the original and the sequel. Which means some of the extra stuff in the sequel is also available. The problem with that, though, is that there are... there's Pokemon exclusive to Sun, Pokemon exclusive to Moon. All of those Pokemon are available in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. The problem is, there are Pokemon exclusive to Ultra Sun and Pokemon exclusive to Ultra Moon, and not all of those Pokemon are available in Sun and Moon. Which means, if you have Pokemon Sun and you have Pokemon Ultra Moon, you can't actually get all of the Pokemon, because you're missing, I believe, one Ultra Beast, which is so stupid. I mean, I don't even think I have to elaborate on why that's stupid. Like, the idea of buying a whole other game, and that's the thing, like, I don't know. I don't know what argument people make for this, if people make an argument for it, but it feels really stupid when they basically lock a whole Pokemon behind one game. I just think... I feel like they know that there are people that buy both of the games that release... But, you know, whatever. And then, okay, what other games? I have Gen 8, I have just Pokemon Sword. And then Gen 9, I have just Pokemon Violet. So yeah, for me, what I want is to have every Pokemon and have them all have my original trainer name, which is Spoon, as it is in this game as well. In fact, Spoon as a name originated from... Pokemon, I believe. I don't remember when I used it first, but I've been using it for a while now. At the very least, since the launch of the Switch, or I guess not the launch, a couple months into the Switch Live. With, in 2017, I was definitely using Spoon, because that's what my Switch username has been. I'm pretty sure since I've had it. But I don't know. I don't remember when I started using Spoon. I just used it once, and now I use it for every RPG and stuff. Which is good, because it's a very short name. I'd recommend this, by the way. If you're gonna have a name that you input as your, No, I don't need either of these. What's the thing I need again? Closed road. Sorry, as I was saying. If you ever want to have a name that you use whenever you play a game that isn't just your name, and you don't want to use a username because those are really long, my recommendation is to come up with something that's short, because... there are some games where you get, like, a really small amount of characters. Obviously, in old arcade high scores, you only get 3, usually, because it's meant to be your initials. That's a little bit different. But I've played some games where you only get, like, 5 characters, which Spoon happens to fill. Maybe Zelda. I don't remember what I'm thinking of where, you know, you only get so many characters, and it really isn't enough, in my opinion. It might be a Zelda game, it might be... I don't remember. But yeah, that's my recommendation, if you want to have a short... If you want to have a name that you use for a bunch of games. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, I just think having a full collection of Pokemon is cool. So that's why I want to do it. Plus, I mean, I want to play all of the Pokemon games as well. So it's kind of a multi-layered thing. Yeah, so I don't know about black 2 and white 2 though. The problem with that is that it's like, yeah. What I was thinking a good idea is, oh man, I broke a flower, bugger. I was thinking, I'm just gonna take one of these. Oh, man, one of these. if you wanted to own both versions of a Pokemon game, because you wanted all of the version exclusives, what you could do is get one in the language that you speak, like just, you know, main region. For me, Australian, obviously that's just English, but Australian specifically, you know, because 3DSs and Switches are... Oh no, the 3DS is region locked, which means you can only play games from your region on that system. But then the second game, you know, you're not playing that one for the story. If you're just getting it to catch the Pokemon, then it doesn't really matter what region that game is in. So I was thinking that would be probably a good way to save. Like, in fact, why don't I do that? I want to look it up. Hey, Phyllis. Because really, if you're living in an English-speaking country, then the cost of a Japanese copy of a game... Also, that was a big zoop. The cost of a Japanese game isn't going to be that much in a country where the main language isn't Japanese. Let's see. So if I look up Pokemon White Japanese and then go to shopping... Okay, well, a lot of these just aren't in Japanese, so that's kind of a thing. Google Shopping kind of sucks. Let's, $60? So yeah, this is a listing on eBay that's $60 for Pokemon White Japanese. So it's like, yeah, it's just a thing. It's kind of weird that it's even a concept at all. Where's Sahara? She's like right here. Oh, I need to hurry up with this delivery. There's so much time left in the hour. I got a bit carried away talking about Pokemon there. So yeah, I like having physical, legitimate copies of games. I think I talked about getting GameCube stuff. I don't want to continue getting more games for the GameCube because I think it's a cool system with a lot of cool games on it, and it's kind of getting to that age where it is... I mean, it is, I think, considered retro now, probably. It is old enough. But there are a lot of cool games on the GameCube. And I just like having... I don't know, I just love that... the tactileness of it, you know, being real in your hands. And I guess that's kind of a curse to like that so much, because it comes with the cost of actually having to track down physical, legitimate copies of games. But whatever. I can live with that. Oh, Sahara, where are you? Don't hide from me. Where did she go? There she is. Let's see. Nope. Well, that was a waste of time. Well, there was a lot of Pokemon. I do really get myself carried away, don't I? Did I talk about Pokemon not too long ago as well? I don't actually remember. Anyway, it's gonna be for today.